Titanfall 2 is one of the world's most underappreciated video games. Sadly, there are very few people today who play Titanfall. Do you remember when the idea of Titanfall first came out? Everybody was hyped. Titanfall wouldn't mimic the run and gun nature of Call of Duty. It would attempt to carve its own niche out by injecting it with more fluidity, lightning fast movements, parkour, and giant mechs called Titans. It wasn't an afterthought. The entire game was designed to give you the opportunity to combine every single one of these features into your gameplay. But when numbers suddenly plummeted to the hundreds, people forgot about Titanfall. Once lively communities with tens of thousands of players battling it out, the once bustling maps of Titanfall games have turned into ghost towns. You can feel the emptiness. Queuing up for an online match can take forever, and without a thriving community of excited players, you can get the impression that the problem of Titanfall may be bigger than we all think. Titanfall 2 isn't that old yet, but it's been buried into an early graveyard already. As one of my all-time favorite shooting games, I lament the death of Titanfall 2. Titanfall deserves much better than it got. Titanfall wasn't just created to combat Call of Duty, it was made to be unique. You don't run around maps of Titanfall 2, you fly around them. The experience of parkour, drifting, and kinetic speed is something you can't get from any other game, especially when the maps for Titanfall 2 and the campaign are specifically designed to give you the freedom to play the game the way it's meant to be played. The campaign is incredible, the multiplayer is beyond fun, and the post-release DLC model is excellent and incredibly generous. But perhaps the most respectable part of Titanfall 2 is that the game has improved on pretty much every single category that Titanfall failed in. The original Titanfall was an incredibly interesting case study. The game sold over 10 million copies, which is really great for any blockbuster game, let alone a new one. Its marketing campaign was gigantic, and it had all the hype in the world you could ever want, aka the game was going to, quote-unquote, destroy Call of Duty. But it didn't turn out that way. Players soon discovered Titanfall to be not nearly the game they expected. There was no campaign, it was exclusive to Microsoft, and there was simply not enough game. The fantastic idea of Titanfall wouldn't be its reality. Without enough meaningful content, it was destined to fail. The long aftermath of Titanfall prompted a cautious approach for many gamers towards the next game. People simply thought it was going to be another TF1 repeat. But all things considered, Titanfall 2 destroyed these assumptions. The riveting campaign was certainly the missing piece left out of the original, the first of many puzzle pieces that would hold the rest of the game together. The others being changes to how Titans were distributed, a fantastic 4-player co-op, free post-release content, a fair in-game store, and much more content to keep players, well, playing. But on April 2nd, 2007, there were 9 people watching Titanfall 2 on dwt.tv. There were less than 1,800 active European players across all platforms, and it was reported that most regional Titanfall 1 audiences outnumbered those playing Titanfall 2. This was 6 months after the release of Titanfall 2. The launch of Titanfall 2 ended up being a disaster when you look back into time. Crippled by low sales just 3 weeks after its launch, EA cut the price in half. So why did this happen? Uncovering the beauty of Titanfall 2 requires that you get past the notion that it was a commercial failure. Yes, Titanfall 2 most certainly failed on the books. It was a confusing riddle, sandwiched in between two of the biggest games of the year like some unwanted runt left out in the pouring rain. It was an afterthought by EA, if it succeeds that's great, if it fails, who cares kind of game. An attitude that would undercut the hard work of a very talented development studio. Add in the fact that Titanfall 2 received very little marketing compared to Battlefield 1, and you can see the story start to get a little deeper. It was also a game that suddenly switched itself from a Microsoft exclusive to a universal platform game, yet EA decided that it wasn't important to point that out to anybody. Sadly, it's a game that was gobbled up by a few different things: circumstance, poor marketing and scheduling, bad exposure and clarification, and the jaws of gaming's greatest and biggest shooters. In lieu of all this, Titanfall 2 was outsold by its predecessor 4-1. As a gaming experience, on the other hand, it could actually be one of the greatest shooting games ever made and one of the biggest success stories of 2016. If you ask the average shooting game fan why they aren't playing Titanfall 2 or why they never did, I'd be willing to bet that many of those reasons aren't related to its gameplay. The sonic speed of Titanfall 2 is simply a joy to play. You can pull off some really crazy stuff in Titanfall 2, especially since you can utilize the combination of jumping and parkour anywhere you go. Every single map was made to give you both great space and great confinement. After all, the best Titanfall players don't run at their opponents, they fly at them. Every single map lets you do that. Another great part about Titanfall 2 is that every player can do something and feel good while doing it, even if they're only killing non-playable characters. Campers are often punished as the high mobility of a game like this makes it difficult for them to get the jump on you. Players are simply way too fast. And every player gets short cooldown abilities like shields or going invisible, yet the trade-offs never let you be the master of everything. Probably Titanfall 2's biggest strength though is that losing doesn't always feel terrible. You can rack up multiple Titans each match, which makes sure that losing teams always have a way to rally back and win. And if they don't, the sudden death mode at the end of the match ensures that the losing team still has fun trying to get out alive. Sometimes that's actually more fun than winning. So you get cool shit to play with. The maps are awesome, the Titans are fun as hell, it runs good, it feels good, the competition is fun and fair, there's no stupid in-game altering loot box RNG crap. Clearly this game should have been a winner. Especially when you consider that Titanfall 2 takes all of these mechanics and throws them into functional scenario designs in the single-player campaign. You will utilize every single one of those elements in a variety of maps, from scaling an assembly line by wall running to warping through alternate time dimensions in one of the coolest levels of the game. So we've got a game here that has it all. Titanfall 2 has a clear focus on what it wants to be, and it does a great job at both differentiating itself from its competition and improving on what it needed to improve on. Very few sequels can say that they have achieved those two things. Titanfall is often looked at as a B-rated franchise in comparison to Call of Duty or Battlefield, but when you really break it down, Titanfall can stand up against any game on the market. To those that play it, they love it. Titanfall 2's public scores are one of the highest of any shooting game. Titanfall will always be dwarfed in sales by these other big shooters, but it's nice to know that a game like this can still steal the hearts of many a gamer. In a time when we've all been brainwashed to death to accept recycled game content, pay-to-win games, RNG, loot boxes, or games that try to play the safety net, I find it very exciting to support a game like Titanfall, even if the company that published it didn't give it the attention or support it deserved. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Do me a favor before you go, tell me your most underappreciated game of all time and why in the comment section. Have a kick-ass day, guys. We'll see you in our next video.